Hello, travel biz owner. Welcome to my corner of the travel industry, the Strategic Travel Entrepreneur Podcast. If you're ready to have fun, be inspired, get clarity, and take action in your travel business, then you're in the right place. Let's jump in. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. My name is Rita M. Perez, and I am your hostess with the mostest. Actually, not really today. I'm recording this, and I am super duper depleted. If you haven't been paying attention in emails and social, or even on this podcast, I have been helping out with Host Agency Reviews Hardwired, which is their tech week, the past couple of days, and I am pooped. It has been a lot. I hope that you were able to join us for some of those sessions or any of those sessions. I think this year we had like a record 15 demos that went live, which is insane. And as such, and because I didn't prepare myself very well this week, clearly, I'm hoping that this is probably a shorter episode than you're used to. And funny enough, like this episode, like the inspiration was actually through you guys. I like to do a lot of different like surveys and get a lot of your feedback. And so from two of those last year, overwhelm was like the big word. And like when we kind of break it down to like exactly what you mean, then I kind of figure out exactly what that means. So I'm going to kind of talk about overwhelm because it's not that you're overwhelmed. There's like an underlying problem, and overwhelm is kind of like the symptom. Like that's what you're feeling because there's more of a root problem. I do want to mention before we get into today's episode that I am hosting an open house for the cruise. I was going to say cruise content library. That's a lie. For Summer Camp at Sea. Wow. You see, my brain is not working right now. Thankfully, I've already have like notes for this episode, so I don't have to hopefully brain too much. But I'm doing an open house for Summer Camp at Sea that is happening around this time next year, heading to the ABC Islands aboard the Celebrity Beyond. And so if you have had an inkling that you have wanted to go to like this in-person retreat with me, with your peers, and maybe even people outside of the industry so we can practice a little networking, I hope that you're able to make it. If you can't make it live, definitely come for the recording. But it's going to be a really, really great one to ask like any questions, get a little bit of the lay of the land. Also hear from some attendees from last year's Summer Camp at Sea as to like what some of their favorite parts, how things have changed, what became a little bit different for them with their businesses. So I hope that you can make that. The sign up link is down below. And so that is like the biggest announcement that I have because obviously I can't brain, so I don't know what other announcements I'm gonna have. Now let's get talking about the real reason that you're overwhelmed, which there is a lot. I kind of feel like it's kind of like when your back is sore. Is your back really sore, or did you hurt some other part and that's why your back is sore because you're compensating? That's kind of what I've been dealing with recently. Is like my shoulder has been sore, my neck has been sore, and it's actually like a shoulder muscle that's making the neck shoulder sore. So you might feel the pain somewhere, but the cause of that pain is actually somewhere else. And that's kind of a little bit about overwhelm. It's like you just don't like one day be like, oh my gosh, I'm so overwhelmed. There's usually been like an accumulation. Like there's been daily things that have happened for you to think, for you to feel. You probably may have like physical symptoms, like if you've had like a panic attack, or even like the opposite of that, like you don't want to do anything because you're so overwhelmed. I've been all of this, not at the same time, but like those are some of the symptoms that I get when I'm overwhelmed. I either don't want to do anything or I want to do everything, and then like I start hyperventilating because I want to do everything. And for me, the simplest thing, like when I am feeling that overwhelm, I need to write stuff down. Like I need to write my to-do list down. But if that is what I was telling you to do, then this episode would be super, super short. And I kind of just want to get into the nitty gritty because there's many layers, kind of like those onions I like talking about. There's a lot of layers, and I feel especially when it comes to overwhelm, there's a lot of different places that it can come from, especially depending on what exactly you're overwhelmed about. But I feel like as a travel agency owner, there are two big / common areas where you're probably feeling overwhelmed at. The first place is that you don't have enough clients, and so you're overwhelmed because you're not making any sales. The second is that you have too many clients, or you feel like you have too many clients. There's just a lot of stuff that has to be done, and you can't get to all the stuff, or everything else is starting to fall behind. That's kind of why I say, like, I feel like the intro, like, solution here is being able to, like, do a brain dump and start writing some sort of plan or some sort of list. But again, like, that's such an oversimplification because there's so many variables when it comes to those two problems. If you're kind of feeling overwhelmed and it doesn't really have to do with one of those two items, feel free to shoot me a text in the Send Rita Your Thoughts section of the show description, and maybe I might bring this up on a future episode. But talking about the not enough clients type of problem overwhelm, I feel like this is going to be mainly for newbies if you're new in the industry, or if you've been in the industry, you've been owning a business for quite some time and it's still not where you want to be at. So there's a couple reasons for this not enough clients overwhelm, which I think a lot of people kind of feel this. My immediate thing, even before going to my notes, I like to go back to the stakes in the game. Like, you don't have enough clients, but you also don't have enough stakes in the game to make you do the things that you need to be doing. Now, you might also be missing some direction. So it's not necessarily that you're overwhelmed because business is slow, but I feel like at this part, and it could also be for the too many clients, is that your business probably feels very chaotic because there is no plan. So there's nowhere like that you can look into a manual, just like your car or any appliances. You can look at the manual and be like, okay, if this is not working, this is the reason why. You don't have that set up for your business. So like, you don't have any data points to point to if you've never officially made a plan. So I always like to go to that you might not know what your number is. You might not know what that income is. Like, you decided that you were going to start a travel agency because you thought it was going to be like a fun little side hustle, but now like you want to start making some real income because you want to quit your job, or you want to be able to afford classes for your kids, or you want to be able to start a healthy retirement fund when it comes time for that, or you just want to stay occupied in your retirement years. There's a lot of different reasons that you got into this business. To stay in this business, it's definitely has to be like income focused. If it is not income focused, like I feel like you're not going to be able to like figure out what success means to you, because you don't need your business to be successful, because you already have all of your income taken care of. Like, you don't need any extra income. So it becomes like a legit fun little side hustle for you. So I am talking to the ones that rely on the income from their travel agency to pay something or everything, or you want it to pay everything in your business. If you haven't figured out exactly why things aren't working, do you know what your income needs to be? Like, do you know that you need to be making $25,000 and that's going to be really great to put into your IRA or any stocks or bonds that you want to be doing? Do you need to be making $50,000 because that's what will be able to help you quit your secretary job or whatever position that you might have? Are you a high-powered executive? So your income needs to be more like $250,000. Like, you would never do anything for like $25 an hour because that's not what your skill set is. Everybody is in a different place. And I feel like that's sometimes where you get overwhelmed too, because you're looking at people who are like super incredibly successful, are booking a lot of travel, but you might not need to book as much travel as they do, and vice versa. You might be looking at people who only need this as a part-time income and thinking like, oh my gosh, you're not good enough because you're not selling as much. So really, I love talking about putting the blinders on. You need to start putting on the blinders and you need to figure out how much income you need. I will always point to my tool, the lead generation calculator, which is something that I will also be working on this summer as I start prepping for all of my fall events that really help with get you on track for the new year of business. And so in that lead generation calculator, there's one, and this is a free resource that you can use. One side is for all of the personal expenses your business needs to cover, and the other side is for all your professional, all your business expenses. I won't go too deep in that because I have done that a lot before here on the podcast before, so feel free to look up different episodes or just download the free resource. I'll make sure that it's linked up so that you can get access and use it. So that's one page. It will figure out very conservatively based also with how much in taxes you're going to need to pay, how much income you need to make. That is not how much travel you need to sell though. That's the amounts that will cover your expenses as well as like taxes and maybe some other fees and things. It is also not an exact calculation, so don't take this as like the solid gold of everything. This is just a tool to help you ideate a little bit better. Because as you know, as I like to say, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a finance professional, but I like to create tools that are still going to help give you a little bit of clarity and hopefully reduce some of this overwhelm. The second part of that lead generation calculator is going to help you find out like how much in sales, in travel sales, you're going to need to make. It does factor in if you are doing planning fees. I'm like, what's the word? And this will also take into account like what's your conversion rate. So out of like 10 people, how many people are actually saying yes to book the trip with you? If it's 100%, great. I don't think 100% is like accurate though. I feel like maybe 60 to 80%, maybe even 90% might be more accurate. So you have to figure out like what your conversion rate is. You also have to figure out what your average spend of the clientele is. So if you know that you book $10,000 trips for families that want to go to a theme park, that's what you're going to enter in there, because then it's going to boop, 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 and do some magic in there and tell you how many leads you need. Because it will also break down how many clients you need based on what your conversion rate is. But I mentioned the whole leads because leads are incredibly important to have in your business. I feel like this also gives you a clear picture of exactly some of the things that you need to be doing. So if you need 100 leads because you need to convert 75 of them into actual clients, now you have like a tangible number. You need to be meeting 100 people every year. Now, again, that number can be reduced if you are having a lot of referrals coming in. But one, you should never, ever not be networking in some way, whether that's locally, whether that's virtually, whether you're going to events for this. You should always be networking. As you get like a little bit more experienced and you're starting to get referrals in your business, you might not need to network as much, but you should never, ever, ever stop networking and meeting people and building your little black book of contacts. That is number one important thing, because you cannot rely on your current book of clients to be building your business for you through referrals. That is your job to be doing. So that's the first that's the first issue that I see, is that many of you don't even know how much money you need to be bringing in. You don't even know how much you need to be selling. And from there, you want to be selling all the things. And that is also a little bit distracting and overwhelming, because that's another part of the problem. So the first part of this overwhelm problem, if you don't have enough clients, is that you don't know your number. If you don't know what you're actually going to sell, then you kind of sell everything to everyone and nothing is gaining traction. So you're overwhelmed because of that, because it is chaotic selling everything to everyone all the time. Also, not knowing your number connects to saying yes to everything, and that's also a boundaries problem. If you make yourself available 24/7, like, when do you have time when you do get sick? When do you have time to recover from that? When you want to be going on a vacation, a genuine vacation, because you also deserve a genuine vacation, like, what's going to happen if you're trying to service clients all the time? This is like what that focus and putting the blinders on and getting deeper and deeper into the layers, like, really, really helps you with. I'll never forget, like, one of the first things when I became a full-time entrepreneur, I was like, I'll take calls Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. And then I was getting calls all the time, like at different hours, and like I would want to focus on a project, but then I'd have to shift my focus because I had to focus on this call that was coming up. So that was one of the first things that I did to add boundaries, was to make sure I blocked off my calendar and people could only schedule calls with me at certain times of, like, only certain days of the week, only certain times of the day. I would also, like, if people were trying to connect with me or message me, like, on social media, like personal friends wanting to book trips, I would get them off of social media, because I wanted that to be my personal zone. And I would try and get them, like, either to email me or go into my CRM. So, like, having those boundaries is super duper helpful. I feel like also, like, when it comes to, like, knowing your numbers, is like, how much do certain trips, like, cost, and how much commission do you get for certain trips? Because again, if, like, you are selling all the trips, and that means, like, you're selling interior cabins on cruise ships and you're only making like $25, and you've put in all this effort on, like, you're losing out money here, friend. So number one is making sure that you know what your income goal needs to be. I would say number two problem in this area is that you've been doing a lot of education and not a lot of doing. I say this because guilty party of one right here. I also did that. I was like, I have attended so many trainings. I'm such a legit travel advisor now. And guess what? There were no bookings because I wasn't doing the work to get the actual leads. Because that's a little scary, putting yourself out there, isn't it? But I'm going to go on a side tangent there. Let's stick with the education problem. It is not wrong to be educating yourself on certain things. And if you are doing a lot of supplier training, maybe start whittling down what is something that you really need to invest your time in versus what is something that you should not be investing your time in. If you know you never want to sell a cruise, why are you on cruise line webinars? Why are you going to Cruise 360 or Cruise World? Like, stop learning anything about cruises if cruises aren't your jam. Now, if you do like cruises, yes, that is what you should be doing. But you should also probably not be going on that fam to a safari in Africa, because while yes, there are African safari cruises, if you are not selling FIT to your clientele, you have wasted a spot, and you're wasting your time, you're wasting your energy from somebody else, and you're wasting also the supplier's time from doing that. So, like, really honing in, what are the things that you want to sell? Because I know when I mentioned that theme park trip, There's certain people that are always going to like shirk on that. Same thing if I mention cruise, you're going to shirk on that. But if I mention FIT luxury, you're like, oh, Rita, you're talking my speed right there. So really nailing in, and you have to be comfortable. Like this is becoming like one of my catchphrases now, is like drawing, and it's not mine, it's borrowed, but drawing the line in the sand when it comes to what you are focusing on and being comfortable that you've drawn the line in the sand. I feel like that's part, and I was going to be talking about this in a separate section, but I feel like this is part of it. You're afraid of making the wrong decision. And so because you haven't made a decision, now you're in chaos because there's 50 million decisions to decide upon. And you're dealing with so many clients who might or might not fall into like your zone of genius, but you're like, I said yes to them. They signed this, they paid this. I gotta stick to it. You have a lot more power in your business as a business owner than I think you understand, or than I think you know of. And again, I'm being very general here. Some of you like already know this. Some of you might be like, oh, preach, Rita. Other people, you might be like getting to start understanding what I'm talking about here. But drawing that line in the sand is going to be and putting like those boundaries up, you are going to do so much, like you're going to have so much more peace. And that's what I say you came into this business for, because you wanted to have peace somewhere in your business. I don't like using freedom necessarily, because there's a lot of ways that you can have freedom, but really what entrepreneurship can give you is a little bit of peace of mind. I feel like there's a fear here in like over educating yourself, because you think that that's going to be the next big thing to help you out. And I'm like, you just need, what did you learn? Okay, now take action on what you learned. Like I recently bought a couple of mini workshops myself to help with my own business. And I'm like, I'm immediately going to like put those into action. Like I bought them, I made the investment. Now I'm going to go put them into, like, they're not going to sit on the wayside here. And you also have to do the same. So like if you're going to a lot of like all-inclusive resort trainings, you need to start selling some of these. And you should have gotten a lot of ideas at the trainings in order to be able to sell them. So start doing the thing. I know it's scary to put yourself out there, but that's the only way the returns are going to come back to you. Also whittling down your supplier list so that you know exactly where your clients need to go. Again, even if you do specialize in cruise, like you don't have to go to every cruise line's different webinars or things like that. If you only want to sell this cruise line, or if there's like 3 top cruise lines that you want to sell, put the blinders on and dig your heels in the sand and say like, this is who I work with. This is who I know best. And I know many advisors have had success doing that, like having your own preferred supplier list, because then you're not figuring out, oh, maybe they need this cruise line. Oh, maybe they need this cruise line. Like you're giving yourself and your clients too many options doing that. Another problem here about not having as many clients as you would like, I feel it's a pretty problem, which also is a fear problem. You don't want to launch your business because your website doesn't look pretty. Your social media doesn't look pretty. You haven't done this. You haven't done that. You are stalling because you are scared. And you just need to jump off the proverbial cliff. Do not jump off a real cliff unless you're doing cliff jumping with an expert. I don't want you actually doing this unless you're with somebody who is there to help you out and has all the safety equipment that you need. Disclaimer. But I am one that's very much apt to be like, you need to do the thing, go and do the thing. And then people typically do the thing, and then they're like, I wasted all this time and it only took me 5 minutes. How do I know that? Because I'm also guilty of doing that. And so this is where I'm like, I know other people are like, feel the fear, and I'm like, you've got to get uncomfortable with or you've got to get comfortable with getting uncomfortable, because that's the only way that you're going to get comfortable with doing whatever thing it is that you are currently procrastinating. So I know many people have told me, like, I need to build the website first. I need to do this. And I'm like, just do the thing. Go to the networking event. For this business that you're listening here on Strategic Travel Entrepreneur Podcast, I don't think I had a legit website until maybe 3 years in. And even then, it was a Canva one-pager. It wasn't until a couple years ago that I actually started building out a website on WordPress. So, and I was generating income back then. So you don't have to have all the things figured out. What you do need to be doing is talking to people, telling them what your expertise is, and like finding alignment in that kind of like trifecta. You're scared. I kind of call this like a failure to launch problem. I think about that movie, which obviously is about dating, but I'm talking more in the travel industry. You're just scared to do the thing, and doing the thing, like, that's why I say, like, you can't just love travel in order to be a travel business owner. You have to be really, really passionate. And especially you, who I'm talking to, mostly travel agency owners, you have to be really, really passionate about people, about putting logistics together, about troubleshooting things, about, like, you have to be comfortable working with technology, because we're in such high-tech world. And I feel like some of those aspects you probably don't want to do. You just want to plan the trip. That's the fun part to you. But there's all these other nuances here that comes with owning a business. So if, like, you legit only want to plan the trip, you might want to consider being a sub agent for like a host agency or an agency, so that you don't have to do the marketing, the financials, the selling per se. You just have to book the clients, make sure they have their itineraries, make sure they're having a great time on their trip, and boom, bada bing, the end. But if you want to have like more control and like more peace, and I say that, but I also know that there is a lot of peace by giving the reins to somebody else. So you kind of have to pick like what is going to work a little bit more for you. Like if you need a lot more structure and you don't want to put that structure together, sub-agency might be the way to go. If you're like, nope, type A, I can do everything, that might be the route that you go, is keeping on owning a travel agency. So yeah, I feel like there's fear encompasses a lot of things. So like fear of rejection, fear of getting it wrong, fear of like someone answering a question that you might not be able to answer, which kind of like goes into somewhere, another topic that I have here. But like all you're doing is like stalling yourself. You're saying like, I just need this and this will happen. I just need this and this will happen. You just need to do the thing. So that last part that I have in here is about like, I haven't been there. I don't know about enough about this destination, so I need more of this. I can't book this because I've never been there. I can tell you that like in whole pandemonium era, I was selling a couple Hawaii trips. I've never been to Hawaii. My clients had a great time going to Hawaii. There are like you don't personally have had to have been to certain places in order to sell them. That is not a requirement. It probably might be perfectionist in you saying like, well, that's not good enough. Like you have to have been there. And yeah, you can kill that thought, because you don't. Like you can have a very successful business and not be there, because it's not just that you need to have been there. Maybe the supplier partners, the DMC, the tour operator that you're using is from there, lives there, goes there often. Maybe it's a rep company that you're working with. Use the resources. It just doesn't have to be you. You don't have to be the be all and end all. And I feel like that's kind of like where you might get stuck sometimes with technology or hiring out help, because you, my sweet, dear type A person, because I've also been there, want to do everything. But there is a time and place in some of these places and some of these times. Somebody else is the best fit to be doing a lot of the things, or you should be leveraging some of the knowledge of people who want to be working with you. If there's a destination, if there's a DMC, if there's a rep that wants to be working with you and wants you to be working with their different properties or with their different operators, take advantage of that as well, because they can help you without you needing to know and needing to do all of the things. All right, now let's head on over. I feel like I'm already over on time here. Let's head on over to the other side of the problem, the side where you have too many clients. And you this may be that you do have too many clients, but I'm also like, you might have too many clients, but are they the right types of clients? You might have too many of the wrong types of clients. And that's why you're working 24/7, because you haven't built up the boundaries to say no. No can be a very positive word. I know that kind of sounds like an oxymoron there, but I promise you, no can be a very peaceful word, since we are talking about peace. So I feel like this problem, the too many clients, is definitely a very big systems, workflows type of problem. But this is also because you've said yes to everything. You haven't put that focus. You haven't set that plan. You haven't said, this is how much I need to make. These are the things that I'm going to sell to get here. This is how I'm going to market in order for all of this to happen and to work out. You're just like, well, I'm a travel agency owner, so I'm going to do all the things all the time. Let's rein that in a little bit. You also, if you have a lot of clients, it is going to be very hard to start batching work, building templates, getting things into a system if you don't already have a system. So like we mentioned on the Travel Tech Audio Summit a couple of weeks ago, you already need to know the system. You already need to know what the workflow is in order to put it into a tool to make it work exactly how you're needing it to work. This is some of the things that you can start planning out when you're super brand new. I feel like sometimes there's advisors who hold themselves back because they're like, I don't have a workflow. I need this or that. And I've mentioned this on the podcast before. I'm like, a template is great, but if you don't have the template, if you don't have the budget to template, are you just not going to sell travel then? You're going to figure it out. Especially if you're going to depend on some of this income, you're going to figure it out. So what is your current process? If you were going on a trip right now, what is your process to plan that? Start writing down those steps. That is your workflow. Now, I'm not saying don't ask for help or things like that, because it is very helpful to ask for help. But if you are also waiting for this one thing or waiting for this magic secret formula that's supposed to help you out, sometimes that's you. You are the magic. You are the secret formula. You are the hidden gem of all of the top 10 lists or whatever might be out there to help you discover what is working in your business. You are the one. You just need to build the confidence. And if you don't have the confidence and you're in the active process of building it, you have to get comfortable with not being right and not making right decisions. None of us are perfect. We're all going to be messing something up at some point of our lives if we haven't already and done it multiple times over. That is what life lessons are all about. Now, some can be very costly mistakes in the travel industry. I will give it that. But again, this is where you can come to whatever community you might be a part of and ask these types of questions in whatever community kind of feels safe to you. Also kind of saying yes to everything goes back to you didn't know what your numbers were, so you're not prioritizing anything. So you're kind of reacting to everything, which can be chaotic in its own. It's very overwhelming thinking about that. This may or may not be a problem for you. You are not using tech in your business, which is probably definitely not a good thing, especially when today's clientele, for the most part, is very technologically savvy and wants to get responses quickly. They want things to be done in a quick fashion. They want things to be done neat and professionally. And if you are still using invoices from Word Excel sheets and all that, you are not doing yourself a favor, because there are so many programs out there that can help automate this for you, and like so many affordable programs as well. Like hello Travel Tech Audio Summit, another plug. It is a free resource that is out there for you that you can listen to lots of conversations about lots of different tech tools. Again, I feel like you're probably waiting like for the magic, like this is the template that's finally gonna get me to save my business. You can make the template. You be that magic formula. So needing to have like the systems written down. If that's on paper, let it be on paper. Take a picture of it, upload it to like ChatGPT and say, make this into a nice pretty list. If that's the way that you're gonna do it and get it kind of like semi-automated and semi-digital, then do that. Like, do what is going to work for you, but don't stall because you don't have this system, or don't stall because so-and-so told you this. Like, you also have autonomy in here. And again, start feeling uncomfortable. Start getting comfortable with the uncomfortable. There's also that analysis paralysis, and I feel like many of us have been guilty. I feel like if you think that you're neurodivergent, or if you are in fact neurodivergent, this is a hard one, because for many of us, like, we have millions of ideas that we want to do, and we don't know which one is the best one, which is where I go back to, like, what is your goal? And that's where I kind of find like your income is kind of like the source of truth. If you are nowhere near making the income that you want to be making, then you've got to be doing something to make that income. And if I hear you say, okay, I just got to post more on social media, I'm not really, but I'm going to poke my eyeballs out. Again, I'm not really going to do that. You need to be having some sort of conversation. All right, now we went on a side tangent there either, but like going back to analysis paralysis, this one might be a little bit quieter. You might not like really recognize it in the beginning, but I feel like this is probably why you don't have a preferred supplier list, because there's so many great suppliers that are out there. How can you possibly choose? But I promise you, your future self will be so thankful that you did. And you might have current like preferred suppliers that you use. Like, you know, every time you book a European trip, this is the supplier that you're calling up to get all the details settled for you. This is also the beauty in having some sort of niche. And this is like why I feel like the person who you're trying to help needs to come first before necessarily the type of vacation experience or the type of like even the destination of where you're trying to send people. Is you have to understand people. Understanding people is not saying like, look at this cool graphic that I created. Understanding people is like really getting to know them. Like, what irks them? What are they really needing? So that like not only can you help them a little bit better, but that also things that you're using to attract them, which could be your social media posts, could be your website, could be like any flyers or any webinars or things that you might be hosting. This helps you hone in on the better messaging, which is why I am huge when it comes to relationships. Could you do this business alone? I'm sure you could. I'm sure somebody has found a way. And while relationship marketing does sometimes take a little bit of time, I feel like it's worth it every time, because especially when you get it right, again, those referral relationships, meaning you don't have to go networking as much, but you should still be going out there and meeting people, because you never know where a connection is going to come from and what is going to happen from that too. So you have to get comfortable like with picking a direction, going all in on that, which I know some of you are like, I don't want to do that. But I promise you, that is how I have been successful in my business. And I'm not saying like it's all sunshine and rainbows, but because I have gone all in and know that this is my only option, know that, I mean, sure, there's certain other options, but this is the option that I really like. So I'm going to do whatever I can to maintain this option. knowing that I have done that and that there's no other option, I'm going to do everything in my power to make this work. Also, all my stakes are on this. Like, if this doesn't work out, I will be SOL. And that is not an option for me. So you have to be comfortable in setting that too. And I feel like that in itself could be a boundary for you to make. So, there are, for the most part, many of your decisions, it's not going to be a make or break. For the most part, not always. So I need you to put so many stakes sometimes in one decision, not having a website and being paralyzed that you can't make any other decision because you don't have a website. A website is very nice to have. I am using my website now to get found online. But I would never just use the website to hold me back from doing other things. My website is not perfect. There's a lot of things that I want to do. I am so behind on putting articles up on there, but I'm still doing other things that matter and that are super important, because it is that money making that needs to happen, because you are in a business. You are not in a charity. If you don't need to make profit, then start doing a nonprofit organization instead of having a travel agency. It might be a lot easier. You might have a lot of fun that way if your business does not have to make you money. Confidence is definitely something that you build by making decisions, but you have to make the decision and be willing to say, well, shoot, that did not work out for me, so I have to pivot. This could result in maybe you lost some money, but I feel like even if you do, let's say that you invested in a booth at a vendor event and nothing came out of it. Did actually nothing come out of it? Or maybe it comes down the line in 6 months, a year, maybe 2 years. It could also be that what came out of it was that you got experience to be a vendor at a trade show or some sort of event where you had a booth at. So also thinking about it in that way, income is a very big winner, but there are also a lot of different wins that can be had so that we can boost your confidence up. So my best advice here, I feel like I've given a lot of different advice, but have something written down, whether that's your handwriting something down, whether you are typing this up somewhere, putting it in an app. You have to have some sort of plan and say, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to stick with this for at least 6 months and see what happens from there. You have to have some clarity on what your numbers are, because that's going to help with that written plan. And you just got to start doing things and deciding on things in order to keep moving forward. So that's kind of my current notes on Overwhelm and kind of getting a little bit over the overwhelm. Let me know what questions that you have. That's funny. This episode is almost 45 minutes and I thought it was going to be a shorter one, but I hope that this was super duper helpful for you and your business. Thanks for being here per usual, and I will see you again next week for another episode. Thanks for joining me on the podcast today. Remember to check out the show notes for all relevant links and resources from today's show. See you next time.